So I'm Nancy Sheed of Sheed Communications, and we're here with a very, very, very special edition of the Behind the Scenes series. I'm here with AJ Jacobs, who is a good friend, a cousin, right? Which you'll explain.
Absolutely.
Best-selling author, and he has a new book that's about to come out called It's All Relative. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but we're also really going to talk about sort of how AJ, as a best-selling author, uses social media and online marketing platforms. So AJ, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Nancy. As I told you before, like pretty much everything I know about online marketing, I learned from you. So, but I will try to repeat back what you told me in entertaining ways.
I'm not sure that's exactly true, but thank you very much. So your new book's coming out, and this can be a little bit about this and how you've used social media for that. But in general, I mean, AJ, you already have a huge following of fans who love you from your other books because of your humor and your writing. But I didn't know if anything has changed for you recently in terms of like, what's been a game changer for you in terms of, you know, online marketing or anything, I guess, but, you know, in terms of recently, what's been a game changer for you?
Well, I don't know if it's a game changer. I am still learning, and I need the wisdom of people like you and your newsletter. So thank you for that. One thing I found slightly effective is I like to tweet and Facebook, but I always try, even when I'm blatantly plugging my own books, I figure there are two ways to do it. One is I sometimes a week ago I wrote a list of, I think it was just called blatantly self-promotional list of nice things people said about my book. So be very honest about how much you are plugging yourself, and maybe people will be a little more forgiving. And I'm going to do a part 2 today or tomorrow. But the other thing is, when I do plug something, I do try to at least have some added value. So make it a funny. Last night I was speaking at the JCC, and I did, please join us at the JCC, even if you're not Jay. Now it's not, well, you're nice to laugh. I mean, it's like a half joke. It's not a great joke, but it's like enough that maybe it's not, instead of being an annoyance to people, it's like, oh, okay, that's not a waste of my time. I got to have a half a chuckle. Or like when I plug a podcast that I'm on, I try to listen to it really quickly and take out 3 or 4 things like, oh, for this one, I did a Q&A about tobacco enemas, rotting fruit, and other important topics, and then the link to the interview. So maybe that's a little more interesting than please read my interview.
But now that's a high bar for us, AJ. I mean, like, what are we going to do to top that interview? That's pretty serious. But I think, AJ, like that to me though is actually part of your. I mean, it doesn't even have to do with the tools. It actually has to do with your brand, your tone, and how. I mean, AJ, the sort of brand and tone. Like your writing is the same way. You don't write books without adding in humor and, you know, a chuckle and value added. It's not like, here are the facts. This is right. And love my book. So I think that's very authentic to you and your voice and your tone and your brand. Well,
that's nice to say. Yeah, I mean, I'm friends with Morgan Spurlock, the documentary maker, and he uses the metaphor. He says, always give them some bubble gum with their broccoli, which is a weird metaphor because it's like, are you chewing? Are you swallowing? Like, you don't want to eat the bubble gum.
Right.
But I get the point that you got to entertain and educate.
And that's probably why your books are such a hit as well. And literally there are laugh out loud moments definitely in the book, but the other ones, every time as I was reading it, I would say that, like, literally just did a spit take, literally just did it. So
you are very nice and one of the best supporters of it ever. Here's a good strategy for people: become friends with Nancy Sheed, because she will promote your book very successfully.
Love that, AJ. I'll interview you every week for that. You may have mentioned it, and I don't know if you want to elaborate, but one of the other questions I like to ask is, do you have a preferred social media network or platform? I mean, maybe it's like standing on your street corner if it's not in social media. But like, where do you kind of feel like you connect the most, or you have the most fun, or it's easiest for you to go to? Like, some people hate some platforms, but some people really gravitate to other ones.
Well, I'm on mainly two platforms, Facebook and Twitter. And I have a good size. I have 80,000 followers on Facebook and 25, I think, on Twitter, 25,000. And which is, it's funny because it's both good and, like, you know, on some days I feel, oh my God, 25,000. Then I'll look at a friend who's got like 4.2 million and I'll be like, oh, I am a loser. So it's all relative. It's a very, not to use the name of the book, but it is all, it's a very, you can't think like that. I think that is such a waste of mental energy, to comparing yourself to others. Okay, but back to the question. Yes. Facebook I like a lot because I'm able to do longer posts and hopefully more entertaining posts. I like posting several pictures, like, and I think the ones that resonate are often photo driven. So I went, one of my books is being turned into a sitcom on CBS, oddly enough. And Julie, my wife, and I went out and I took photos of the set, and that was a big hit. Just people love the visual. Even if I'm plugging my book, I sometimes will do a photo of me holding the book. I've been told, I don't know if that's my strategy or my publisher told me, but I do think having your face, it's called Facebook. People like faces. So so I do that. Twitter I do more just the one-liners and political. I try, as a rule, I try to do like 2 non-promotional tweets for every promotional tweet. So 2 observations or jokes, and then or replies. But yeah, they're both good. I mean, I feel very, very guilty every day that I'm not on Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook Live or whatever. It's exhausting how much I'm missing.
Yes. Well, let's just go back to both of those comments. Let's think about quality versus quantity, right? So,
okay, that's a good one.
Like quality versus quantity on 2 fronts. One, people with 4.2 million probably don't have the same engagement that you have with
I like the positivity. Yeah. Right?
And also, I mean, I actually say this to people, and you are absolved, but you people who do all platforms, I honestly believe they can't go deep in all of them. Either that or they have a support team of about 6 people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not one person, and I know you want to be yourself and you want to be on this platform. So you're absolved, AJ. You're totally absolved.
Thank you, Nancy.
You'll stop right now. Like, okay, I'll tell you a little bit about Instagram later, but forget it. And then when your kids go off to college, like mine, you'll have to get on Snapchat.
There you go.
You're fine. You're totally absolved. And I think I want your comment about Facebook. I think the other thing that I've seen in your posts that get the most engagement also are, one, when Julie actually posts on your behalf, or I happen to see hers before yours, which is always funny to hear her take on your post.
Yeah, that is good. She's a good poster.
The other is typically there's some very self-deprecating photos or images of you that you have no problem posting that show us all like the true AJ and behind the scenes AJ. So
I do like to post, yes, unattractive photos of myself, which are easy to find. I had one that got a lot of traction where I was on the roller coaster with my kids about to throw up. I didn't actually throw up, but it looked like. So yeah, I do think those are nice to show as the human side, as they say. Yeah, and the other thing that has really worked is totally unrelated to my books, but doing a short post that's semi-political or outright political, I did one about a year and a half ago that got really, I think it qualifies as viral. I think it was something crazy, like 20,000 retweets or reposts.
Wow.
And it was an Ann Coulter. It was like a little Ann Coulter during the Republican debates. I'll try to keep it clean, but she did not say. She said, "How many effing Jews do they think there are in the United States?" Because she felt that they were trying to pander to the Israel lobby. So I wrote a post that said, "This is a great question. How many effing Jews are there in the United States?" And I did the math to figure out how often your average Jew has intercourse, and then how often, how many were having intercourse while she was speaking, and that just went nice and viral, and I think it did help my brand in a little way because I got more Facebook followers. Although I will say, since I've done more political, I have lost Facebook followers too. I have lost quite a few, which I'm okay with. I don't need everyone to follow, and it's a decision I made, and we can talk about it if you want. But I never used to do political humor, fearing that I would lose, half my readership. But in the Trump era, I just decided I can't keep quiet anymore, and if I lose these people, then so be it.
Yeah, well, you and I had this conversation probably back in May, and I said, "AJ, is it me, or are they just showing up more?" And you acknowledged that you kind of said, "Yep, it is a conscious effort," and so it was interesting to hear what the results were. But I think, again, that goes back to your authenticity. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That goes back to, as much as you're the nicest guy in the whole world, wanting to make everybody happy and love you is, and I think also, what I also will say to people is, you got to know your audience. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And people who say, "Oh, everybody loves me," or everybody in the world is my client or my perfect reader, that's not always the case. And it gets hard to then have the right messaging, as you have learned.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm friends with Tim Ferriss, who has his fair share of detractors. And he always says, there are 300 million people in the United States alone. So, man, if 90% of them don't like you, but 10% do, that's 30 million people. That's an insane amount of people. So hopefully my percentage is a little higher than 10% of those who do know me. But yeah, you definitely don't need to appeal to everyone, and it's impossible to.
I'm gonna go find that viral post and link to. I gotta go now. I'll have to put that in the comments.
Oh, good. Yeah, you'll see that it's probably not. It's probably like 20 reposts, and I made it up. I can't remember. I'm not good with the numbers, so forgive me. But it was more reposts than I had ever had. We
won't quote you. AJ, is there anything? Well, I mean, we may have just touched upon this in terms of what are you doing? Are there things that you're doing differently, or have you changed in terms of maybe when you first started either promoting your books or getting on social media? What's different now that you sort of feel moves the needle versus maybe what you were doing a year ago?
Right. Well, one thing I'm going to try, and I haven't sent it out yet, so I don't know the results, but a lot of my friends who are authors send out to their mailing list a free PDF, just free content to get them hooked. So my book is all about family and ancestry and genealogy, and I have sort of a 20-page appendix at the end, like a dummy's guide to genealogy.
Really?
So
that's Nancy. It's great. That's going to save me a phone call later, because I had a friend in England. He was like, "Here are the 4. I don't know which one to start with," and I was like,
"Oh, perfect! This is it. Exactly." So yeah, I'm going to send that out, and hopefully that will attract people. I mean, it's interesting. The marketing department at Simon & Schuster is trying something that they've never tried and I've never tried, which is that there are several DNA companies, and that they all wanted to be involved, or some of them did anyway, So we teamed with one, and you have a code in the book where you can get $40 off of your DNA test. So it's like a 40% discount. So the book costs like $26. So you're actually making money by buying the book. So
that's the market. Okay, see, you do have some secrets, some special stuff. So all right, that's worth it right there for people to pre-order, like, right?
You got to, otherwise you're losing $14. Like,
that's in your pre-order messaging. Okay, that is a good plug. I know. I hate it when writers come and they're like, yeah, my book's all done. I'm like, well, what did you do to sort of send people back to your website or to sort of further promote stuff? And they're like, yeah, nothing. I was like, oh, you gotta use your book. Like, you gotta use the book to sell the next book. Are you crazy?
Right. Well, I do enjoy the marketing much more than I used to. I think part of it is if you've got to look at it as a creative endeavor as opposed to like a chore.
Right.
Because you're incredibly creative, and a lot of the people I work with in marketing are. And I mean, this came out, I did the book about the Bible, and one way I tried to visualize marketing was to split it up into the tiniest slivers. So, because there's so many topics the Bible covers. So I remember I wrote a piece, sex advice from the Bible for Glamour magazine. Like now you could do it for whatever, for BuzzFeed or whatever. But then I did, music in the Bible for, it was Spin magazine, I think. It was a music magazine that may or may not exist anymore.
And AJ, were all those excerpts that, or sort of just advanced pieces that kind of came out? This is great PR strategy that came out as your book was coming out, right?
They were extras. I mean, I wrote them myself.
Right.
I did a lot of writing, which is a pain in the ass. I'm not a fan, but it does seem to work somewhat. I mean, the ideal is, I think, an excerpt or a review or a feature, because then it's all of, like, it's very direct. It's like, buy this book. Whereas a book, sex advice based on the Bible, it's sort of secondary. Oh, and you should also buy this book. Yeah. But I think the more hits you get, even sort of tangential ones, the better. Well,
it's awareness, as well as hopefully for your website, it brings people back, and the Googles love that. I'll just tell you, it's a good thing for Google if it's not a great it's not a great thing for your book sales. So
okay, that's good.
That's good to know. AJ, what is your, I call it secret sauce? And again, we may have covered it just because you're such an authentic, real person, but what's your secret sauce in terms of either connecting with people or growing people? And I might even push this back to sort of, we're not going to reveal what's in the book exactly, but you did try and create the world's largest family reunion. Like, was there some secret sauce to sort of get thousands and thousands of people together for a family reunion, or?
Well, let's see. I don't know if I have one secret ingredient.
We'll make a list.
And they're certainly not secret, but I'm happy to share what seems to work. I mean, this book was very interesting because it was a book about social networks and connectivity and how we're all related. And I joined this family tree on some of these websites like genie.com, where you can actually figure out how you're related to people. So it was like LinkedIn on steroids, because if I wanted publicity, like I would look up, a producer at Good Morning America, figure out how they were related to me. Like, you're my 8th cousin 3 times removed. Then I would email the producer and say, you got to be upfront. It's like, I know this is a little odd and it might alarm you, but I'm your cousin and here's how. Would you like to do a favor for a family member? And, it didn't work all the time. Sometimes I'm sure they like alerted their security, but but a remarkable number of times it did work. And I got quite a bit of publicity using that technique. So I do think whenever, in terms of non-social media, getting the mainstream media, you need to be very specific in finding the person, finding the editor or producer, like naming them, complimenting something specific they did, to show that you're not just sending this to everyone, even if you are, and then making your pitch. So that's one small secret. I guess another would be, I don't know if this is a secret, but I always try to think, what would I want to read as a reader, or what would I want to see on my feed? So really trying to get into the mind of the consumer, and being aware of what annoys me when I'm looking at my Twitter feed, which is just for me, it's the straight plugs with no humor,
right,
or no added value. I'm like, I don't need that. But what other secret sauce is there? You see, I get most of my secret sauce from you. That's the thing.
No, but the cousin connection was great. Like, I remember seeing one of your articles where who was connecting Barack Obama and the most right-wing person in the Senate. Like, that was one of your.
Oh, right.
Like, that was a pretty good secret sauce to pull out of the content of your book to use. Like, that worked out pretty well.
Well, that is the other thing. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I'm actually very torn about celebrity culture, because on one level, I love it. And on the other, I think it's destroying our society. See our president. So but people do love it. So if you can incorporate some celebrity angle into your feed, that does work. And the other thing is, when I would email these people, I would be like, you're related to me, which they may be like, well, who cares?
Right.
But if you can relate them to their hero, or, if they're a Democrat, Barack Obama, then they're hooked.
Right. No, that was fun to see the way you use that in terms of building your content for the book and the family reunion and everything else. So I think we just talked about that, your sort of stellar stats. So we won't fact check you on that, but
go ahead. I like it. I like the truth, unlike some people, but I am a fan of the truth. So please tell me what the real stat is.
I think also, like, it goes back to what you were talking about, like how many retweets or reposts or shares or comments versus how many likes you have at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I would ask you, do you get a sense of like, oh, that felt successful because so many people, we would use the word engage with it or commented or shared, versus today I got 10 more likes on my page. But you had a conversation with somebody. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I do like that. And actually, for a while at Esquire, I was doing a weekly column, which I actually still love the idea, but I didn't. It was too time consuming, so I didn't continue. But the idea was, it was something like my crowdsourced advice column. And the idea was that, like, I don't know, if people ask me, should I dump this girl or should I marry this guy? Like, I don't know, but maybe the crowd knows. The wisdom of the crowd. So I would ask people to send me questions, and I would post them on Facebook, and then I would get hundreds of replies, and I would engage with them, and then I would write a column sort of excerpting the best and funniest advice. And that, I think, was awesome. If I had time to keep doing that, it would be great, because it got people excited. They got their name in an Esquire column, so they were excited.
Right.
And it was fun to see the debates, because they were like some things, small things that people care about, like airplane armrest fights. What do you do about the airplane armrest? Like, and what about the middle seat? Like, should the person in the middle have both armrests or what? And people were very passionate, and I loved that. So I do recommend, like, asking questions. I wouldn't say you just want to ask a question. I do find it annoying when people just pose a question on Facebook.
Yeah, the open-ended ones are like, are you a beach person or a forest person? It's like,
exactly. Well, I would be okay with that if they had a paragraph, a funny or interesting paragraph about why they hate the beach or why they love the forest.
Right.
And then say, are you? But if you just ask the question without any added content, it's kind of irritating.
Right. Like they put the beautiful picture because they think that's going to get engagement. It's like, are you a beach person or a forest person? Discuss. And you're like, no, that is not valuable content. Thanks. See you later. Gotta go. Okay. Well, one more, like, is there stuff in the book that you're going to get to like share with us later that didn't make it to the book? Is that top secret? Is there some stuff that sort of got left on the cutting room floor that you can use for future purposes? This is just a curious question.
Oh no, that is a good question, because I've been meaning to. I do a lot more than ends up in the book, and that, see, you're already helping me. You're making me think.
I want to know where the content's going. What we're going to do.
I know. So I've got to look at what I cut out.
Okay.
I wish I had it on the top of my head, but there certainly was stuff that didn't make it in. Oh, and even, yeah, I just found a new black sheep, so maybe I could do something with that. This guy who, it was a good one. As far as old presidential scandals, it was a good one. He was involved in the Teapot Dome scandal and Warren G. Harding. And he was blackmailing and bribery. It was all, and extramarital affairs. It was good, juicy stuff. Wow. So maybe I'll pop that out. But yeah, you're right. I need to, because for each of my books, I actually do this, and you are one of my readers, as you know. You are one of the people who helped me, is I'll send out a bunch of chapters and ask to like 10 friends, 15 friends, and I'll say, which of these chapters do you find most interesting and which do you find least interesting? And if, like, 6 people say, I didn't love this chapter, I'll cut it. I don't trust just one person, because they could be an outlier. Right. But if you do sort of this panel and several people are like, yeah, that kind of dragged, then that's a very good indication.
So this is some inside book editing advice, editing by crowdsourcing loosely. No,
exactly.
Crowdsourcing, beta testing, just general.
That's it. I am a fan.
Got it. I'm not sure all editors love that, but it helps you when you have to defend it, I'm sure, to the editors.
Exactly.
All right. So getting away completely from the computers, the phones, and everything else. What is it that AJ or the Jacobs clan does? I mean, I know you're about to sort of get thrown in the middle of a book tour and be surrounded by lots of media. What do you do to not be on media or to disconnect from family and everybody? Well,
I'll tell you what I do. A friend of mine, Nancy Sheed, used to throw these excellent scavenger hunts where you would go from bar to bar. And my wife then started a business with a friend of mine where they do scavenger hunts, and they do them in museums and historic neighborhoods. WatsonAdventures.com, and they're excellent because they really are offline. They are.
So you can't use your phone. It's not like it's using your brain, right? Is that
exactly? And it's really, you're looking for clues in paintings, and I would say she's converted me. I don't think I grew up like being a scavenger hunt fan, but I have come over and I love them. So that's one thing you can do. Like
a weekly, like Jacob scavenger hunt? You guys it's more of a monthly thing, or?
Well, whenever we go on a trip, because they're in most cities. So like we went to San Diego for vacation and Los Angeles, and we will do the scavenger hunt in that location.
Awesome. That's like quality control as well.
Exactly. I know. She's working. She's telling you.
I got it. Well, AJ, I'm very excited about your book. I've already sort of mentally checked several people who are going to be getting it for Christmas. I'll include the link and everything with the video below, and I wish you huge success.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for being so supportive, and you're a big part of it. As is your sister, who has a bookstore in St. Louis, and I am going to St. Louis. I only wanted to go to a couple of cities because of my kids, but I specifically chose St. Louis because of your sister.
Awesome. Well, that's very nice. She is looking forward to seeing you, and I'm very much looking forward to sharing this book with lots of friends. So thanks for your time, AJ, and we'll see you in Promotion Book Tourville soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, AJ.